better if I do it this way?
I don't know.
It's the same, it's fine.
Okay.
Good, good.
Actually, the both
I think if they're both off, it might be too dark.
No, I can see. I'm not with all of them up, I can't see.
That's what I was just saying. That's what I was just saying. Okay.
Tell me when you're ready.
We're ready.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody here. Oh yeah, that's what I got for it, yeah. I've had it on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Hey, we respectfully acknowledge that we live and work in Mi'kmaq as a steward of the ancestral territory of the Mi'kmaq people. We are all treaty people. And it's a public hearing and it's a single item consideration of amendments to the Municipal Land Use By-Law to rezone land around Spectacle Lake to apply the lakeside zone, beginning at your ordinary high water mark and extending 100 meters inland. And the general rules of conduct are essentially that Garth will do his report, and then I'll ask for comments from the public, and you put your hand up and let me know who you are, and you'll be acknowledged, and everybody will have the opportunity to speak if they wish to. So I guess the first item is whether, Mr. Lamy, you met with matter properly before us?
Yes, I've reviewed the material and I'm satisfied the matter is properly before council.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Overview by the planner.
All right, so I'll just quickly run through the report here as a reminder. So as was mentioned, the item for consideration tonight is the application of the lakeside zone to Spectacle Lake at a depth of 100 meters, starting at the ordinary high water mark and extending inland. As a bit of background, this amendment rezoning process is following a recent. Oh, thank you. Thanks. This amendment that's being considered tonight is following a decision of council late last year to remove the protected watershed zone from around Spectacle Lake and the surrounding lands. So that decision has already been done. That rezoning has taken place, and as things sit today, the zoning around the lake is what's called the mixed use zone. That's what was brought in to replace the protected watershed zone. So as of today, it's mixed use, and then the consideration tonight, and I'll bring up a map to show exactly what I'm speaking of. The consideration is whether or not to add the lakeside zone in this 100-meter band immediately around the lake. So we have, just quickly as an overview, we've had a series of meetings with this file as we do with all of our planning amendment files. So that began on October 17th with council direction. We then held a public information meeting on November 13th where we just similar to this, except no decisions were made, and it was just an opportunity to share information and take questions and comments from the audience. On November 21st, 2024, council gave first reading to the draft amendments. However, at that time, the postal strike was in effect, and because of that, we weren't able to send out a direct mail out to property owners, which hopefully most of you received. Basically, anyone within 500 meters of the lake should have received that. So when council gave first reading, they also gave us direction to just hold off on holding this meeting tonight, the public hearing, until the postal strike was resolved, so that we could get that notice out. So early in January, when that was done, we went back and set tonight as the date. And also the tonight and the series of meetings have been advertised as we normally do through our website, so short bulletin and on our office doors. So to quickly jump into the actual proposed amendment, I'll just jump down to some of the maps here. Okay, so this one, and this map shows obviously Spectacle Lake right in the middle. This is a topographic map, so the faint brown lines represent contour lines, and where those are closer together, that's a steeper slope, and where they're farther apart, that's a more flat area. So when council considered this in the fall last year, there were essentially sort of three options provided for consideration as to how far this new lakeside zone would extend from the lake inland. So you can see here, 100 meters, 300 meters, and 500 meters were all considered. And there were, the staff report kind of runs through some of the reasons why those distances may or may not be appropriate. In the end, it really came down to a decision between 300 meters and 100 meters, and ultimately council decided, and again is considering tonight, to apply the zone at that 100-meter depth. So that line that's closest to the lake, that kind of shows you the extent of where the zone would go. Part of the discussion that council had around establishing that 100 meters was obviously the first 100 meters from the lake is probably the most impactful in terms of protecting the lake from runoff and the impacts of larger developments or commercial developments. It was also noted that there are some existing uses that might get picked up within the 300-meter band in terms of some industrial or forestry uses and those kind of things. And the intent was not to impact those uses or prevent them from continuing. So as a result of all of that, the 100-meter option was selected. And then just quickly to talk about the lakeside zone itself, what it offers in terms of the permitted uses is basically a residential zone. So commercial businesses and industrial uses aren't permitted in the zone. There's a minimum lot size of 1 acre per lot, and that's essentially to keep the overall population density around the lake at a lower level, and also to make sure that there's plenty of room for on-site septic systems, because there's no expectation that the central sewer is going to be extended to that area at this point. So the lakeside zone would allow 2 dwelling units per lot, so that could be like a duplex, or it could be a single unit home with with a garden suite or a backyard suite or a bunkie or cottage or whatever else. And it would also permit what we call home-based businesses. So you couldn't have, say, a convenience store or a retail store, but if, as a part of your house, you operated a small business like a hair salon, or did income tax work or some other kind of office use at your home, those are permitted in the zone as well. And that's similar to our other sort of strictly residential zones. Those home-based businesses are usually seen as being less of an impact in these days too, with work from home. A lot more people are doing those kind of things, so didn't want to prevent that. The lakeside zone also requires that for new developments, for anything that hasn't yet been built, that a vegetated buffer be maintained. So that's 10 meters from the high water mark inland, and essentially that is to help slow down runoff and prevent pollutants from reaching the water. The zone does outline provisions to allow for trails and pathways through that, so it's not, you don't have to leave absolutely everything there. There's allowances to do some clearing for access to the lake, to do a dock or a boathouse or those kind of things. And I think that's probably a pretty good overall summary of what it does. So it reduces the allowable uses to, like I said, pretty much strictly residential, prevents commercial, and with the vegetated buffers, offers more protection to the lake than would be provided under the current mixed use zone. So I think that's probably more.
You mentioned forestry,
Forestry?
well, just what you can do, in that.
Sure, so I'm not aware of any, so forestry is an interesting one because it is typically provincially regulated activity. However, when it comes to forestry processing, so like mills or facilities where the products are taken and then processed, those usually do fall under land use by-law regulations. So in the lakeside zone, something like a mill would not be permitted because that would be an industrial use. But it doesn't prevent provincially regulated forestry from occurring. And that's a great question. That came up in one of the other applications of this zone around Sherbrooke Lake, where there is forestry activity taking place as well as cottages.
Christmas tree farm.
Yeah, that's right. So, so it would, within the 100 meters, you couldn't have a mill. Outside of the 100 meters in the mixed use zone, you could, but the activity could continue, presuming it's provincially authorized. Yeah.
Anyone else on the financial, any questions before I move on to public? Okay, we'll open it up to the public, if there's anyone who wishes to speak, let me know. Yep. Come on up to the mic. Yeah, I'll get her, yeah, I have to get your name and civic address.
I am Jamie.
Yeah.
I am Jamie Mader and I live at 124 Old Trunk 3 on the Drive. Thank you, Board and Wyvern Council members. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for providing this platform for folks' voices to be heard. And I generally hope that the voices you listen to tonight are those that live on the other side of the imaginary line. Those who grew up here, those whose families have lived here for generations, those like me that care enough to stand up here and share their thoughts, experiences, and feelings. I am not a landowner around Spectacle Lake, however, I am the daughter of one of the majority landowners around Spectacle Lake. And it is my absolute honor to speak on behalf of my father, Wayne Bond. I have stated to this council in the past, these lands around Spectacle Lake are my home, and I am forever grateful that many, many years ago, my father purchased these lands. He probably didn't know it back then, that his littlest daughter would hold on to and cherish those moments in his woods. But I can assure you, I have, and I have passed on to my children the love of these lands. These parcels of lands have provided to my father over many years the ability to keep his family warm in the winter by cutting firewood with building material from lumber that has been harvested, along with the vegetables like cucumbers that my dad grows and shares with his community members. My dad for years planted pumpkins with his grandchildren, and those grandchildren became Poppy's pumpkin pickers. Why am I sharing these things with you? These memories that I cherish. I'm sharing this with you so you can see the folks in this room, that they are real life humans, not just landowners that have vested interest in how all this plays out. I have recently started attending the meetings, the information sessions, the public hearings regarding Spectacle Lake. I have listened to what has been clearly stated by those who are professionals, that the water in Spectacle Lake is not a viable option for the water source. I've listened as those folks put forth the idea of the lakeside zone. I've tried reading the land use bylaws. Unfortunately, I think you need some sort of PhD to understand those thousands of bylaws listed. However, what I did not know until recently is that the lakeside zone is something that the landowners come up with. If they wanted it, or if it's something that the landowners come up with, if they even want one at all. I truly believe that the lakeside zone was brought up not to help these landowners, but to appease those who still believe the Spectacle will be used as a water source for the village. My father is adamantly opposed to the lakeside zone and to the overlay that accompanies it. From my understanding, communities that actually use lakes as water resources do not impose such restrictions. Why then should our community? I am confident that you all as council members will look at the faces of these landowners, especially my dad, and realize that these people are stewards of their land and they will take care of it. They will take care of what is there. They do not need to be policed as they have been for the last 35 years. Thank you.
Thank you.
What is that?
Anyone else wish to speak?
I didn't prepare a speech tonight. My name is Jason Morash. My address is 27 Eaglet Road, and I'm just going to keep it short and sweet. I agree with everything that Jamie just said. I don't see the point of these restrictions, this lakeside zone really. And like she just said, it was put in place in Shearbrook Lake by the landowners, and I don't think any of us want it. I personally don't. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I don't see the need of it. I just don't. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
I just have some questions, because I missed the other meetings.
Name and city.
Rachel Davidson, 30 Duncan Road. I've lived on Duncan Road since 1988. Anyhow, so I'm not familiar, I haven't read through everything, so I'm not cognizant and familiar with all the terms just now. living on Duncan Road, my question would be is if it is going to be at some point developed or there is lakeside, these buffer zones. My concern is one, are public going to be able to access at various points or is it all going to become private property and with do not enter signs? Because the lake has been used recreationally over the years. The other thing is that there seems to be concern about buffer zone now, but I've watched Duncan Road and the extension where people have gone in, cleared land, and yes, it's their land and they can access it. Taken out topsoil, bring in rock, take out fill, bring in fill, and none of that is monitored. And we already have a mess down on the number 3, as we know. And there was a fire there, not last year, I don't think, but the year before. And that, we would have had to evacuate. So my concern is we've got a buffer zone. Is it large enough? Should it be larger? What is going to be public access to the lake? And when you talk about industrialization, it kind of worries me. I know it's mixed use, I know it's rural. But we've got to do something so we don't have more people dumping garbage and not respecting the nature and the beauty of the area.
Maybe we could answer the question because the municipality does own some land respectively.
Yeah, so I don't know how we're handling questions, usually it's to hear comments,
Okay.
but if the answer, Duncan Road is a private road and all the land off of Duncan Road is a private road, so I
It's
don't.
not a private road. It's
I
public.
thought you asked the question, it is a private road, I could,
The end,
Okay, but it's plowed so far by the municipality.
the first part's public, the back
First
part.
part's public.
First part's public.
And then the extension's private, I understand that, but I'm just trying to get a clarity as to what this is actually going to do.
So
Terry.
I'll try and I'll maybe Gareth and Sam jump in. From the questions that you've asked, those are questions that this zone would not address, right? So the matter in front of council tonight, the zoning would not address the Duncan Road or the removal of topsoil or any of that. This is purely within that
But
zone.
my other question is with the lakeside zone, what is the intended use there? Are the lots, if someone can develop it, I realize that if they've got private land back there, they can sell it. But a lakeside zone, what does it do for the general community of Chester?
So what the lakeside zone does is it's just a layer on the zoning map that would have a different set of land use regulations when a person comes in to request development of their property. So this would allow, as Garth has said, it would allow residential development, limited in-home businesses. It would prohibit in that 100-meter zone, it would prohibit industrial uses and general commercial uses, except as we said for home-based businesses, but it has nothing to do with public access to land or anything like that.
So by zoning at Lakeside, it's not intending that we see some future development in particular there. It's a protective zone to help protect water quality as well as the low density residential nature of the lake. Yeah.
But I think you wanted to get out and speak?
Yeah. My name's Wayne Bond, I live in 19 Lockwood Drive, East Chester. I get an issue with why are you trying to develop my land or zone off like that? I've run it for years. Okay, once the government says you can't come down and do what you're doing, right there I get lawyer look at the paper, do zone, they get all the rules, they're ever gonna be in the cat around the lake. That's the first question. Peter Vaughan says, John, I said in front of her, we never stop anything. Go back there, driving over land, taking the dogs for walks, whatever we do. As long as we didn't come to steal, it cost me grief. There's more than welcome to use my land. As far as Thompson goes, pretty skinny back there, but I'm bringing to the screen itself, so that just Tom's question. Yes, I hauled rocks to the lake. Guess what? For years, the Zincs and all people on the land there hauled rocks out, hauled gravel out. They had gravel pits back there. They took the raisins down. So what? And we never had this hassle with what the village wants to do. The only reason the village is doing this here is because people want to get the water shed lost out there, so they had to pick on us, just to make them happy that they get something to say with my property, their property, all the people here. So that's the only reason we're here today, talking about this shit. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Joanne Grant, 207 Piglet Road. I have a question, I apologize if it's already in here because I haven't read this as yet. But my understanding is that Spectacle Lake, since the early 60s at least, was identified as a potential water source for Chester. So what would this change, how would that change affect?
It's not viable.
It's already done. It's lifted.
What's that?
It's lifted.
Yeah, I'll get
It's
Gareth
no longer a
in.
watershed.
I'll get Gareth in, so that's right.
So, yeah, so, as I mentioned earlier, there was it had been identified as a.
The microphone, sorry.
Yeah, so Spectacle Lake had been, as you mentioned, identified as a potential water source for several decades, and there's been a couple of studies into that. More recently, based on studies from 2011 through, I think, 2018, our public works folks took a renewed look at all of those studies and determined that Spectacle Lake is not a viable source for municipal water. And so that discussion was had last fall, and that resulted in the protected watershed zone being removed from the area around Spectacle Lake. So the protected watershed zone had been put in place as a, let's call it a placeholder, to protect the quality of Spectacle Lake up until a point that a final decision had been made as to whether it was a viable source or not. So with Public Works determination that it was no longer a viable source, it then justified council considering a rezoning to allow the landowners to make more use of their land, since it wasn't deemed to be a viable water source. So that decision has already been made, that protected watershed zone has been removed. It's mixed use right now, and then the consideration tonight is to add in these additional protections for the 100 meters directly around the lake. Is that answer your question?
Yeah, it does, it's just puzzling to me because for such a long time, I mean, there had been hydrological studies done on Spectacle Lake, and it was praised as being what, granite bottom or something and 90 feet deep, and there was so much positive being said about it as a potential water source. And studies that were done, so who made the determination that it's not a viable water source?
So it was our Public Works, so we have several engineers who work in that department. They reviewed all of those reports as well as updated information, including some work that had been done, I believe it was in 2018, which even then was required. So there were a number of issues. I don't have that with me. There are reports that we could provide to you with that, with the full detailing there, but it was due to the concerns around the quantity of water, because it is a shallow lake, and particularly in recent years, the quantity hasn't been there. It would have required berms built around the lake to a minimum of 2 meters around the entire lake to increase the capacity. The total capacity, even with those berms, was expected to serve about 2,000 residents, not households, so quite limited, given
Wasn't cost effective.
given the high cost. There were concerns around blue-green algae. Most municipal systems that are created now do not use surface water, so best practice is to use groundwater if it's available. So there was a plethora of reasons that our engineering department provided to us.
Okay, things really changed in 60
Well,
years.
Yeah, they do.
Can I ask something for the village of Chester have that water, the people that live around the lake don't have water already. So there's no reason that we should let them, if it were to be used as a water resource.
Good point.
Yeah, we're looking at a much larger picture now. Anybody else wish to speak before we move on?
does it protect that area from anything like? No, but mineral exploration, since we have a premier, sorry, who wants to open
Yeah,
up
you
things.
already got no ones up there, so I didn't find any. Yeah.
Thank you.
I wish you found mine, I didn't get.
Yeah, Tara will try to answer that one for
I
you.
can try to answer it, and I'd look to Sam maybe to help out, but under the Municipal Government Act, this is a zoning change, a land use bylaw change. The land use bylaw does not deal with mineral rights, and that's a provincial issue, so.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, and we'll close the public session. And we'll move on. Yeah. So we're basically in a position where we need to make the determination as council as to what's our next step. And I understand that if we approve it, that's one thing. If we decide to change it, then we're back to public hearing again, or not if we oppose it, if we just reject it.
So you have three choices tonight: to accept the recommendation to approve the 100 meters, which was what we advertised for the public hearing. If you want to make a change to that distance, to the depth of that, instead of 100 meters, go to a different distance, you would need to direct staff to come back with a report, or to come back for first reading, to give that a new first reading, and we'd have to re-advertise and do a new public hearing again. Or you could do nothing and it would,
That's just over.
it would be over and no lakeside zone would be applied and the mixed use zone, yeah.
Or you could defer.
Or yes, you could defer and ask for more information or wait till a later date.
I've talked to it just about long enough, so. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, I mean, okay.
So I'll speak. I spoke to many landowners on this topic, and as you can imagine, and there were two common themes that I heard. One, none of the landowners had actually any interest in doing any commercial activities near the lake. And second, they wanted to be left alone. So I think that, in my opinion, we should be just letting this die. That people are sick of this, and I feel their pain, honestly. So I'm opposed to any zoning, and I guess we'll see where the rest of council sits.
Well, I've heard nothing from them, so you aren't taking a motion.
There's no motion to make.
Well,
We don't reject, we let it die.
Defers, generally, we don't have a negative motion.
No, you either make a motion to approve this and have it defeated, like that would, or if you don't get a motion, if nobody makes a motion, then it just dies, yeah.
okay, that's all I want to know.
Hello, everyone. My comments would be is that I am in agreement with Councillor Vino in terms of his reference to speaking with the landowners, the property owners, those who are impacted today and in the future. Having the only lake in the municipality of the District of Chester that has the lakeside zone, which is in New Ross, I remember and will recall, as Ms. Mader pointed out, that interest came from the property owners of impact. They had that lakeside zone applied. So thinking this through over the past number of days and beyond, actually, I kept referring back to that example of how we even came up with the lakeside zone as a council way back when during our municipal plan reviews exercise. and initiated the zone to have as a tool in the toolkit for property owners, again, to initiate to come to us. This didn't happen in this case, in my belief. So I'm in agreement with Councillor Vino and his opening comments.
Adele Acer, Councillor for District 5. Now, I have to plead ignorance because I was of the belief, until Tara told me before the meeting, that the lakefront zone was the same as the lakefront overlay. My fault. And I assumed that the lakefront overlay was on Long Lake or Shearbrook Lake. And it was the landowners that wanted that zone. So with that new understanding, because they came, and from everything I'm hearing tonight, you know, I don't see a motion on the floor to.
No, and we don't need a motion on the floor, but I'm getting the sense around the table, and people can still speak if they wish, that there isn't any interest in pursuing this. So, you know, and we can't have a motion to not do it, but I mean, I can certainly have the minutes reflect that we have chosen not to make a decision because there doesn't appear to be any interest in applying the zone to this particular lake.
Yeah.
But if that's what you want, then I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn.
Well, I'm gonna turn this on. It would be nice if there was a way to make a motion, because that way we could really put it to bed, because it would take a 2/3 motion to overturn our decision.
Well, we can have a motion to proceed with it and have it defeated, and that would be as clear.
That would be the cleanest way of doing it.
I would like to do that, because if we did that, then that really
Well, that's clear.
puts it in the grave.
You're gonna make a motion to apply the recommendation?
I'll make that motion. You know I don't want this, and I'm voting against it.
We have
Second.
moved and seconded that we apply the lakeside zone 100 meters. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is defeated. There is no further business